Alright, I just drew a diagram of what I call the perceptions of reality. And there's many more than just these three spheres, but these are the ones that I favor, the ones that I'm familiar with. And so there's being sober, which allows you, being sober with your brain being a chemical antenna. Um, Basically, the chemicals that are that are in your antenna allow you to be able to access like certain realms of reality. Um, when you're sober, you're in the smallest realm, and that's the chemicals like serotonin, dopamine, testosterone, estrogen, and like all the chemicals that your body produces to create the reality that you know and are familiar with. Um, and anybody who's never, gone outside of sobriety only knows this bubble, the inner bubble. And then there's ones that go, and there's ones that shrink your bubble of reality too, like alcohol. That'd be an even smaller bubble. Blurred vision, um, loss of memory, slurred speech. It dulls down your senses that you already have. So your bubble of reality is going to be smaller than sobriety. So sobriety isn't the smallest bubble of reality. LSD, once you combine, you've already got all the chemicals in your body, serotonin, everything your body produces, and then you take lysergic acid and add that to it. You now have a broader sense. So as an example, I put in a dresser, and the dresser is halfway through the bubble deliberately so I can show what you see when you're completely sober. You just see, what you've always seen, just a plain dresser, the dresser that you used to, the dresser that you know and love. But on LSD, it's partially in the LSD window, and then on LSD you can see these patterns that are on it that are only, seeable on LSD, or something that expands your senses. LSD, psilocybin, the hallucinogens for the most part, the ones that I'm familiar with, that I've done enough times. Um, you can see now you're in this bubble right here, and you can see outside of the perception of you're used to. So you can see things that aren't true for everybody else that is sober, but are true for anybody tripping. Um, that's why when you're tripping with somebody, you can both see something that isn't true regularly, but is true for both of you while you're tripping, because you're in this outer window for a limited time, and you can see like outer things of reality that are true, that are outside of the window of your perception when you're sober, that you would just never know anything of if you just stayed sober your whole life. And then there's DMT, which is even outside of LSD, where there's where there's ethereal entities that are around you at all times. You'd never know it staying sober. That you can see for an even shorter window of time. It seems like the farther out you go in these windows, the shorter the time you have to be in them before you. It's kind of like an explosion in super slow motion. It's like boom, it goes out, or an inflating balloon that like inflates like this, and then it inflates so it goes like this. So it's at its widest, inflation for the shortest amount of time, and at the smallest for the longest. So this is the one that you're in the longest, that you're very familiar with, that you know and love. This is the one you're in the second longest, and DMT is for a very short time. You get to see, um, I don't know, I mean, it's probably not even close to the whole picture. There might be infinite spheres of reality that just get bigger and bigger. That DMT is not even remotely close to the whole picture, because there is no whole picture. It just goes on and on forever with this just stuff that would be complete and total make-believe, just completely cuckoo tinfoil hat sounding stuff to anybody who hasn't even, ever even been, even to, outside of, there might be realms of reality that even to people who've done DMT would say that that's preposterous, like 10 levels deep, 10 rings deep into it. So it might, the rabbit hole probably, who knows how deep it goes. All I know is that it goes a lot deeper than things appear when you're sober. So on LSD, you can see for a short time things that you cannot see that are true, but only in that window that you're in for a short time before it contracts back to the chemicals that your body produces for your antenna of perception, which that's why when you close your eyes on LSD and especially on DMT, you can see things with your eyes closed that aren't there, that you could never see while you're sober. And if you're tripping hard enough, you can see those things with your eyes open. And it's like seeing the code in reality. It's like, like a TV is always off. I guess another example would be a TV is always off, but the signals are always going to it. There's invisible signals that you can't see, that are always going to the TV, and you can't access those. Let's say the TV is sober right now. When you close your eyes, you don't see anything. When you close your eyes, you see blackness, just like on the TV. When you close your eyes on acid or DMT or psilocybin, you see what's on the channel of the universe. You get to access different channels, and there's different things on the channel. It's not always the same thing, although I have seen one I call the cybersonic dimension commonly on LSD. There's variations of it, so I just like to lump the variations into the cybersonic dimension. But there's also the hexagon world, the city of Indigo Arcadia, the beautiful plant, like the organic plant world. So there's different things, I don't know, and you float through them. You can't control the float speed for some reason, just the way you can't control the signals that are coming to the TV to determine what's on TV. You're seeing it, and you're part of it while you're watching TV, and it's like, hijacking your attention, but you're not in control of what's on TV. The same goes for when you're closing your eyes on LSD, and you're in the cybersonic dimension, seeing that beautiful, it's like seeing the code in a game. Like, this is the game. Like in an old NES system, when you put in a game not in all the way, and the game still works, but you can see the ones and zeros in the game on the screen. That's like you can play the game while seeing the code in the game on the screen. So you're both aware of the code and the game at the same time. That's like what being on LSD is, because when you're sober, you can only see the game the way it's designed, the way that it's intended. But when you're on LSD, it's like cracking the code. It's like seeing the algorithm that drives this, like from the outside in. You're not on the very inside bubble, because there's, like I said, there's other chemicals that could suppress the knowledge of your perception even more, constrict it. It's probably why they're legal. It's probably why alcohol is legal. What's why it's a terrible drug, but it constricts your reality. They don't want people going. They don't want people's minds to manifest in uncontrollable, like undictatable, unculturally programmed ways of perception. That's that's my suspicion why alcohol is legal, because it's a terrible drug, and stuff that's expands your minds and is physically harmless and has so many more pros than cons, unlike alcohol, which has so many more cons than pros. But I've seen them many times. When you go out far enough from this sphere, there is a realm where there are entities, and DMT isn't the only thing that allows you to access that. Tapentadol mixed with Benadryl or diphenhydronate, or all three of them mixed together, allows you to be able to see these things. And they're a lot easier to see in pitch dark. And when you reach your fingertips at them, I just drew them like this because they shapeshift. They don't have a form. So this is just the alien form that everybody knows, the tall, slender, big-eyed. But the real ones, look, it's a lot like in the movie Scanner Darkly, how their suits are always changing how they look, except their images change too, and their size. But they're real because you can feel them on your fingertips when you reach. They know that when you're reaching on the tips of your fingertips, they attach these tentacles around your fingertips. And the longer you do it for, the more you can feel them. Up until a point, once you do it for like 10 minutes, it gets to a point where it doesn't ever get any stronger how much you can feel them. But that's how you know they're there. You can feel them physically. Sometimes you can't always believe your eyes and your ears, but in my opinion, it's pretty hard not to believe your sense of feel. I don't know if I've ever caught something bullshitting me, like I just feel like I hit a desk or something hard, that I can't see. It's like, okay, it's got to be real if I can feel it. Let's see, what else is there to say about this? So, who knows? Maybe in the future they'll come up with something that blows DMT out of the water. And there'll be... Man, I can't even imagine what's outside of the circle where there's these... What David Icke calls the archons, what they call the bodocs, what they call demons, and they have all kinds of names, but they're definitely real. Like maybe they have things that they can't see because they're out here all the time. So they, I'm sure, can see all these what we see and what we can't see and what only they can see. And then there's probably stuff that they can't see that they can't see. So we have archons, but the archons probably have archons. And the archons have archons they can't see. And maybe the whole system changes. The whole structure, like when you go downwards into... So there's different levels of reality, like if you go into the quantum level, the double slit experiment, and when you look at, we're not the smallest thing. When we look through microscopes into microscopic life, we can see microscopic life that can't see us. So we're looking at them through the microscope. So to these things, when we do see them, it'd be like when we're watching microbes under a microscope. If they were seeing us, if all of a sudden they were able to see us watching through the microscope, and we're watching through the microscope, like holy shit. Yeah, that would be very interesting. And these things are always very interested when you can't see them. It'd be like watching a movie, and all of a sudden the actors on the TV are aware of you watching and can interact with you through the screen. Whereas, of course, when you're watching a movie, you're just watching people who are just unaware you're there. So, this is why people who are tripping together can see things that they know aren't real in this bubble, but are real because both of you are seeing it at the same time. It's happened numerous times with people that I've tripped with. So it's not like you're unaware. And one of the awesome things about psychedelics is you can remember what specifically LSD, because the farther you get out into this realm, uh, at least for me, the harder it is to remember clearly. So this is my favorite bubble, where you can see just enough to know that like realities dissolve and there's more to like, you know, just everyday objects than you could ever, like patterns on them. There's things all over stuff, patterns and like orbs. It depends on the objects. Some objects only have certain things about them. So it's fun to stare at all kinds of different objects on psychedelics. One of my favorites is the sky. When you look out into the sky, if you're tripping hard enough, you can see the cybersonic dimension like coming through and that's when you know you're tripping. When what you see with your eyes closed is there whether you open or close your eyes. Which would suggest the closed eye world. If what you're seeing with your eyes open, the real world is only there with your eyes open, but the closed eye world, that like beautiful, well polished and throbbing with radiant energy, cybersonic world, is there with your eyes open or closed, like it is if you're tripping. I bet if you take like 10 hits, that pattern appears in more than just the sky and just white paper. It's really interesting to look at white paper, just solid white paper when you're on psychedelics. It does the same thing the sky does. You can start to see like beautiful rainbowy colors, but those colors, when you close your eyes, are exactly the same things that you see with your eyes closed. Whether you're open or closed, you're seeing the same thing. So it's like an internal neurological scape of like the code in the computer in your mind having its perception fucked with, like being able to see the code in a game, like I was saying earlier. Or looking at the channels on the TV that's off, like when you're sober with your eyes closed. Maybe that's what Timothy Leary meant by turn on. It's like turning on your antenna, your chemical antenna, to the channels of the universe.